Hello and Assalamualaikum. I'm Atla from Group 1I. My group and I will talk about the absorption of Diazinon from wastewater using Biochar. First, we'll talk about introduction and objectives, market analysis, methodology, results and discussion, safety and consideration, and finally, conclusion. Nowadays, the usage towards organophosphorus pesticides that consist of Diazinon, which could harm environment and human health, has been used a lot in the agricultural industry. Due to the other treatments which are high maintenance and costly, adsorption method is preferred due to its simplicity in design and operation towards sustainable environment of removing pesticides from wastewater. This study evaluates the absorption of Diazinon from alcohol solutions onto coconut shell modified biochar using a batch system. The objectives are as follows. Next, I will pass the floor to my group member to explain the market analysis.
Hello everyone, I'm Siti Afrina, Binti Ahmad Suzaini, and I will proceed the presentation with the market analysis of the end product, which is the water and also Diazinon. The global water and wastewater market value is $61.6 billion in 2020 and expected to reach $68.25 billion by 2028, growing at a steady rate of 4.0% over the forecast period. Growing environmental issue combined with the need to adhere severe government rules governing water and wastewater treatment around the world are expected to promote market growth. However, for Diazinon, it is commercially known as insecticide of the organophosphate group OP. The organophosphate insecticide market is estimated to grow at a CAGR 1.2% during the forecast period. However, some organophosphate OP have been withdrawn from use in recent years, notably Perishon, which is no longer registered for any application and which is no longer registered for residential use. Now we are moving on to the methodology part. In the power plant, some equipment are being used, which includes the electrical buffer finance, pyrolysis, Elegant Series 1200 high performance liquid chromatography, HPLC, Starata X33 polymeric reverse phase. As what I can say about this power plant is that technically Diazinon is a pesticide and it is an unwanted chemicals that is in most industrial wastewater. And in this process, carbonized coconut shell biochar BC1, activated coconut shell biochar BC2, and chemically modified phosphoric acid BC3 and sodium hydroxide coconut shell biochar BC4 were created and tested as variables in the adsorption experiment. The solution and the absorbent were separated through Starata X33U, and the chromatography of solution were analyzed using Elegant Series 1200 high performance liquid chromatography HPLC.
Hello, my name is Rhesika and now I'll be presenting about the process flow of wastewater treatment using biochars in industry. Firstly, the influent, which is also known as the pesticide containing water, we undergo screening. Screening removes projects such as rags, papers, plastic and metals to prevent damage and clogging of downstream equipment and piping. Then, after the screening process, it will enter the primary clarifier where underflow containing solids will enter the anaerobic digester for biosolid production, while the overflow will be pumped to the aeration tank. An addition of biochar will also be added in this tank to increase the absorption of refractory priority pollutants and to reduce the effect of toxic compounds. Microorganisms in this aeration tank use the dissolved and particulate organic matter as food, producing more microorganisms. Thus, the waste materials that left the primary clarifier are changed into microorganisms which can be collected and separated from the water in the secondary clarifier so that only clean water is left. Meanwhile, some of the solids collected in the secondary clarifier, which is known as the return activated sludge, are sent back to the aeration tank to treat more wastewater, and the excess waste activated sludge is pumped back to the anaerobic digester in the plant for further treatment where it can produce cleaner biogas. Then, the clean water that flows out of the top of the clarifier will undergo for the tertiary treatment where there will be presence of biochar. The biochar will be responsible for the absorption of nutrients and removal of refractory pollutants. Lastly, before the treated wastewater is released to the environment, the water will undergo a disinfection process where microorganisms that might be health hazards will be killed. Finally, the treated wastewater will be produced, which is also known as the effluent.
Assalamualaikum and hello everyone, I am Syaidatul Arfah Binti Shamsuddin. So we have come to the most essential part of this experiment, which is the result and discussion. For adsorption process, the most common evaluating procedure is the adsorption models. Adsorption models defined as the interaction between the adsorbent and also adsorbate for the mean of maximizing the efficiency of the adsorption process itself. As we can observe on these two graphs of adsorption models, which are the long way, which indicating the monolayer adsorption, while the other one with is branch, which indicating the multi-layer adsorption. All the data extracted from the experiment were tabulated in the table given. Based on the result for BC1 and BC2, the dominating isotope models is the Friendlich with 0.9971 and 0.999 of R-squared respectively. The R-squared were the nearest to 1, which indicating the most linear graph and also the most efficient interaction between the adsorbent and also adsorbent. Meanwhile, for BC3 and BC4, the most dominating isotope model was the long-wear isotope. But overall, the Friendlich is the most fitted graph and the most efficient adsorbent as it has the highest R-squared value. Other parameters in this experiment were also evaluated. For long-wear, the maximum adsorption capacity QM was 10.331 for the BC3. Meanwhile, for the affinity of bonding site KL, BC2 has the highest value of 0.24. For Friendlich, the adsorption capacity KF, the BC2 has the highest value, which was 1.7290, which aligned with the highest value of R-squared that month. The BC2 once again proved its efficiency by the value of 1/n, which was the highest among all other adsorbents. This presented a very strong correlation of adsorption process between the adsorbents onto the adsorbent active site. So that's all from isotope models part. So let us move on to the second part of the result and discussion.
Hi, I am Siti Norsyamina and I will explain about the effect of two parameters, which are the pH and the amount of the adsorbent dosage used on the percentage removal and the adsorption capacity. For the first experiment, which is the effect of the pH, the experiment was carried out by manipulating the range of the pH from 3 to 9 under several conditions, which are the concentration of diazinon used is 1 mg per liter, the amount of the adsorbent dosage used is 1 gram per liter, and the contact time between the absorbent and absorbate is 2 hours. From the result obtained, we can see that the percentage of removal of the diazinon onto the BC surface were high and good at acidified condition. Most of the pesticides live a quite stable life under acidic condition except for the diazinon. Thus, it shows that the stability of the unwatered molecule at any particular condition, making the process of the removal become better due to the rapid degradation occur. Besides, the reduction of the percentage removal with the increasing of pH value could also be explained by the negativity of the BC surface, which is directly proportional to the pH value, which means that when the pH value increase, the negativity of the BC surface will also increase. Thus, it will cause more repulsion between the adsorbent and adsorbate. Thus, the rate of the absorption and the diffusion of the diazinon onto the BC surface will become slower. For the experiment 2, which is the effect of the adsorbent dosage used, the experiment was carried out by manipulating the amount of the adsorbent used from 0.2 gram per liter to 10 gram per liter at the pH of 7. From the result obtained, we can see that when the amount of the adsorbent used increase, the percentage removal will also increase. This can be explained. This is because when the amount of the adsorbent used increase, the number of active sites on the BC surface will also increase. Thus, it will allow more diazinon to absorb onto the BC surface. However, we can see that at the definite time, the increasing in the absorbent dosage used did not result in higher percentage removal, and the percentage removal remained nearly constant. This is because the process of the adsorption already achieved equilibrium state where all the active sites on the surface have been fully used to absorb the diazinon. Thus, there is no more possibility for the adsorption to occur. To conclude, from these two experiments, we can achieve the highest percentage removal and the adsorption capacity at the pH of 7 by using BC2 with 5.85 mg per gram, followed by BC4 with 5.69 mg per gram, and lastly the BC3 with 5.47 mg per gram. That's all from me. Thank you.
For this part, there are a few safety considerations that we need to take note on. Firstly, we should wear the personal protective equipment, which includes the glove, shoe, goggles, and a coat. The glove should be used in this experiment to avoid exposure of skin or eyes to corrosive and polluted solids, liquid, gases, or vapors. Then, observe the variation in operating condition. And lastly, make sure the ventilation systems are functioning properly.
This experiment showed that carbonized coconut shell has successfully been applied as the promising adsorbent for removal of diazinon from aqueous solutions. The results of isotope adsorption models were well described by the theoretical and Friendlich models. The results also show that the biochars are highly potential and effective, with 97% of removal of Diazinon from contaminated surface water due to their large porous characteristics. As a result, Biochar shows a high adsorption capacity for Diazinon, indicates that adsorption method is a feasible and effective method for wastewater treatment. That's all from me and my group. Thank you.